Call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the July 2nd, 2024 Post Falls City Council meeting. Rhiannon is filling in for Shannon again. Thank you. We have Field filling in for Shelley, so thank you. Rhiannon, please note that all council members are present with the exception of Mr. Malloy, who is excused tonight. We do have a couple quick announcements. City Hall and city business offices will be closed Thursday, July 4th in observance of Independence Day. Police, fire, and rescue services for life-threatening or in-progress emergencies may be reached by calling 911. The police department will be open for walk-in emergencies. For water emergencies, call 208-773-3517. The Post Falls Festival is happening from July 12th to 14th at Camille Park. This weekend, a weekend-long event features live music, a variety of local vendors, delicious food trucks, a movie in the park, fun inflatables for the kids, and more. Don't miss the festival parade on Saturday, July 13th at 10 a.m., which will take place along Celtice Way between Spokane Street and Idaho. Visit the city's website for the full schedule of events. And tonight, it's our pleasure to recognize a young man and thank him for the significant number of hours he contributed to City Post Falls and Kiwanis Park. I'd like to recognize Joseph Moran on being awarded the prestigious Freedom Award, a testament to his dedication, hard work, and commitment to service. The Freedom Award is through I wrote it through the Trail Life program, and it's the equivalent, it's basically the highest award that you can earn, equivalent to what the Eagle Scout would be under the Boy Scouts. This award is not easily earned, and it speaks volumes about Joseph's character and perseverance. One of the significant contributions that led to this recognition was Joseph's exemplary work on the trails of Kiwanis Park. His efforts have not only improved the accessibility and enjoyment of the trails for all visitors, but have also demonstrated a commendable sense of civic responsibility and community spirit. On behalf of the City of Post Falls, I want to congratulate you on your remarkable achievement and thank you for your service to our community. And Joseph said that his troop is sponsored by Candlelight out of Coeur d'Alene, and we're just pleased that you opted to do your work in Post Falls. So if you come forward, I'll hand you a certificate. Talking with Park and Recreation Director Fair, he said that Joseph not only did the work, and Brian Myers is here as well, but he was kind of the impetus for getting a lot of that work done, and that's a true indication of leadership. So thank you and best of luck in the future. Do we have any amendments to the agenda tonight?
We do have one. We would like to pull item 3B, which is the tiny home ordinance, off tonight, put it on the next agenda. There's an error in the summary that's attached. For whatever reason, it auto-populates, and it didn't auto-populate, so we got to fix that and bring it back for you.
Do you have a motion?
I move to approve the removal of item 3B, the tiny home ordinance, from the agenda.
Second.
Is that good enough? I didn't know if we needed to say bring it back, but you obviously did.
sorry.
We will.
No,
We
you're
will.
fine. You're fine.
We're good.
I didn't think we had to. I just want to make sure. Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Stigleader. Aye. Walker.
Aye.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Westland.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Mayor passes. Thank you. Are there any declarations of conflict or ex parte contacts or site visits? Seeing none, would you please present the consent calendar?
Item A is minutes from the June 18th, 2024 City Council meeting. Item B is payables from June 12th, 2024 to June 25th, 2024. Item C is the April cash investments. Item D, Kruger Annexation Denial Letter, file number ANNX 23-5. Item E, Boyd's Landing First Edition Master Development Agreement, file number SUBD 23-5. Item F, the Post PUD Construction Improvement Agreement. Item G, North Shore Subdivision Master Development Agreement, file number SUBD 23-3. Item H, Legion Park Annexation Grants of Right-of-Way Annexation, file number Annex 23-7. And item I, Legion Park Annexation and Grants of Easement, file number ANNX 23-7.
Any questions on the consent calendar?
I move to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Motion seconds, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Stigleiter.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Westland.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next up tonight is public hearings, and we do have one, Title 18 and 18A Housekeeping Ordinance T8-24-1. With that, I'll open the public hearing. But before you speak, if anyone wishes to testify on the public hearing, there are forms on the podium in the back. Please fill them out and turn them in to Rhiannon. John.
Good evening, Mayor Jacobson, Council, sorry, Malloy's not here, so, and other members of City Council. John Manley, Planning Manager here, introducing the code amendment that you introduced. The applicant is the Planning Division here at the City of Post Falls. We would like you to review and approve the amendments to Title 18 and Title 18A. The first one deals with Post Falls Municipal Code Section 182130. Subsection A4, and particularly that deals with site plan reviews and what triggers improvements when improvements or proposals are done on a particular site. The other one is entitled 18A, the Smart Code, 18A 2070, dealing with how do you establish stories within Smart Code. So looking at the details here of the Title 18 site plan review, before what was proposed was, or what was the language that you see stricken, what established was a 25% change or more within a structure, and that was defined by the International Building Code. There wasn't a lot of flexibility, of which then the idea was maybe we can get more clarity and some revised language. The revised is a change of use within an existing structure of 25% more, an expansion of existing structure of 25% more, or any change of use on the site itself where improvements are required within Post Falls Municipal Code. So instead of the building code looking at what establishes the change of use, we'd be looking at the land LBCS, and planning would be looking at a change of use rather than the building, more or less, and add more clarity of whether it's in a building or outside the building. There was the tenant improvement part previously added to some confusion with the city staff and applicants. Any question on this part before I move on to Title 18A? So 18A, what you see highlighted in yellow, a lot of individuals, staff, and applicants got confused on how do you count for 2 stories. A single floor level exceeding 14 feet or 25 feet at ground level shall be counted as 2 stories. So that statement in and of itself confused a lot of applicants and staff on how do you do 14 feet or 25 feet. So what we did is we parsed it out into some other sections. We looked at stories may not exceed 14 feet in height from finished floor to finished ceiling. What that did, so I'll go back real quick. So Smart Code is form-based. It's not like traditional Euclidean where you say a building, it caps out at 35 feet tall, or a building caps out at 50, or whatever that may be. It's form-based, so you have stories. And so if you allow up to 4 stories, there's a multiplying effect that each story would be, you know, no more than finished floor to finished ceiling per eye. And so we're trying to like normalize and get an established what is a story. The second one deals with ground level non-residential function will be a minimum of 11 feet. So what that does is a lot of times in commercial where you have, or an office on the ground floor in a mixed use building, you want to have taller ceilings. So they're saying for a non-residential, you're going to have taller ceilings. The next sentence deals with a multi-story building. If it's measured between 18 and 25 feet, it will be counted as 2 stories. So what that does is it kind of creates it so you don't, between the first one and the second one, you don't end up with like 18, 18, and 18, a really tall 4-story building with these awkward levels. Not saying someone would do that, but it kind of brings it, forces the height down a little bit. And it says, in no event can any ground level non-residential function exceed 25 feet as measured from finished floor to finished ceiling. and then except for single-level buildings with a flat roof or a parapet, which leads you into some of the next sections. The third one goes into like a mezzanine. So if you had like some commercial space, but a mezzanine acts as a second story within a structure and it gets more than 33% of the, then you would get credit for a 2-story in that event. Now, moving on to 5 and 6 of that section.
Mr. Manley, I'm so
Yep.
sorry. Can you tell me what happens between 14 and 18 feet?
So
a single
between,
story can't exceed 14 feet, has to be at least 11, but a second story starts at 18 feet? I'm
right, so
sorry.
like so if you had a residential function,
Okay,
so stories may not exceed 14 feet in height, measured from finished floor to finished ceiling. So you could have, that would be the max each story could be, was at 14 feet. The only way to go
even if it
above.
was the second story,
Yeah, if it was a
Okay.
second story, you could go 14 feet in the second story.
in the second story, but the first, okay.
So
Okay,
each story would get, the more you would go is no more than 14 for each
Mhm.
story. So a 4-story building in essence could
Measured
get,
between 18
was that
56.
56 feet?
feet and 25 feet. Sorry, I was reading this before the meeting and trying to figure it out. If a ground level non-residential function is between 18 and 25 feet, it will be counted as 2 stories. So like just no building can be 16 feet unless it has like a mezzanine or a parapet or something.
No, you could still do a 16-foot tall, single-level building. You just wouldn't get credit for a 2-story. You would have to be
Okay.
18 to 25. It'd be a single-story building at 16 feet. So like Smart Code requires in both the SC 4 and 5, a minimum of 2 stories for you to be in that zone. So 16, you wouldn't be allowed, but in a different zone, you might be able to. So if you.
Okay. Okay.
So this all goes back to smart code.
Yeah, this is,
And it really goes to counting the stories. So it's you get credit for, if it's past 18, up to 25, it's counted as 2 stories versus 1 story.
Right. I get that part. I'm probably just not explaining myself well. It's fine.
I'm a little confused on the same point. So we say a story may not exceed 14 feet, but then if the ground level is over 18 feet, it counts as 2 stories.
For non-residential.
So then if it's a commercial use, so if it's a commercial use on the ground floor that's 17 feet, is that still 1 story and allowed?
that would be considered a single-story part of a multi-story building. You'd still have to have another story because Smart Code requires 2 stories. So if you had 17 feet on the first floor, you'd have to have another story above that.
Right, but there's a little bit of a gap between the 14 feet and then the 18 to 25 range.
Where that would come into play is for like a residential function. So you're not doing commercial, you're not doing office, then your story, you couldn't go above 14 feet.
So the 14 really only applies to residential uses on the ground floor. If it's ground floor commercial, then the 14 doesn't apply, and you can go up to 25.
Well, you could do commercial also. It's just, the commercial could be, it just has to be 11 feet. So in theory, you could still do a 10-foot ground floor commercial. Oh, no, sorry, minimum 11 feet
Minimum
commercial.
11, yeah.
So if you had a 17-foot first story, then you would have to have a second story.
Correct.
Okay. In which case, you would just start counting over again.
Correct. You'd
Okay.
get, so the next story, you couldn't exceed 14 feet.
Okay. In which case, your total would be more than 18. And you
The
would
total
count.
building height, yes, but
Right,
like
so then I
Field
guess
was
you would
saying,
count.
this just allows us to count stories and how you, with the form-based, how you equate it out. And how
And-
this really comes into play is, let's just say you have a civic center in your downtown, like an aquatic center. An aquatic center, you're probably not gonna wanna build a mezzanine, you're probably not going to, but you may want a tall roof, right? But you're not gonna build a second story to an aquatic center in your downtown, or if you have another a gymnasium or some other gym function in your downtown, you're not gonna wanna build a second story. But you may do a parapet on a single story, which you'll see, and, and you may wanna count that as 2 stories and be consistent with Smart Code, because Smart Code requires a 2-story. And I'll get to that. So the fifth one, which we will highlight, we do have some proposed language, but the draft code you had, that all single-level buildings with a pitched roof of 18 feet and a maximum of 25 feet would be measured from finished floor to finished ceiling or top plate of the wall, should be counted as 2 stories. Financially, I have a diagram coming up, which I'll go into.
Which was very helpful. Thank you.
The sixth one deals with a parapet situation. So all single-level buildings with a flat roof with a parapet of at least 20 feet and a maximum of 30 feet measured from finished floor to the top parapet shall be counted as 2 stories. And number 5, the issue was what you highlighted in yellow. I sat down with somebody looking at doing a potential project, and they were confused by, do you measure from the finished ceiling or the top plate of the wall? Which one? Because if it says finished ceiling or top plate, to them, they deduced that was 2 different things. So then, we highlighted in blue here, for revised language to the ordinance, is to say the finished ceiling which corresponds to the top plate of the wall. And what that means is, from a diagram, would be you have your finished floor, you have your open, let's just say it's an open ceiling, that we would measure from the top plate to the finished floor, and that range can range from 18 to 25 feet from here to here. So then that would count as a 2-story building, and it will allow some more civic recreational spaces to go in a downtown area, have tall ceilings, and still be able to meet your smart code. So the 10th was to make it more clear. That is something that was unclear, but it's still a minutia, a little bit of, you know.
Yeah, I think the wording is still confusing, but this is legal language, so it's always going to be confusing.
Well, and you should have been here when Smart Code first came up. Oh, my gosh. So anything that they can do to try to simplify that would be wonderful.
For staff, this is a lot clearer to implement, and it's a lot clearer for people developing in Smart Code. The proposed language is clearer than what was there previously, which no one really knew how to grapple much of that.
Any other questions? Thanks, John. Anyone wishing to testify?
No.
Close the public hearing. Council? Discussion? Motions?
I like it. I like the new, I mean, especially in the portion of defining top plate to finished ceiling, especially in a commercial building, even with a high top plate, you can have a false ceiling if it's an acoustic ceiling or anything that would change that pretty significantly. So I think that's a good
And I saw
clarification.
our builder nodding, so I'm going that he likes that idea
That's
too.
exactly, yeah. Finish ceiling could be a whole lot of different things. If you're going top plate and you set that, then that's great.
Makes it very clear.
Yeah.
You want to float a motion?
So we're moving as an ordinance, or how would, which,
Bring back an
Yeah,
ordinance?
this would bring it back.
Yeah.
Approve the changes and bring back an ordinance.
okay. I move to approve Title 18 and 18A Housekeeping Ordinance TA 24-1 and bring back with improvements.
Bring back the ordinance?
An ordinance with, yeah.
Second.
Work for you guys?
Yep.
And we had seconds?
Second.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Walker.
Aye.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Westland.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Stigleader. Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, John. Tonight we have, under unfinished business returning ordinances, we have 2 ordinances. The first is the Legion Park Annexation Ordinance.
I move to place the ordinance, Legion Park Annexation Ordinance ANX 23-7 on its first and only reading by title only while under suspension of the rules.
Second.
Motion second. Further discussion. Roll call, please.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Westland.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Stigleader.
Aye.
Walker.
Aye.
Motion passes. Field.
An ordinance of the City of Post Falls, a municipal corporation of the state of Idaho, annexing property consisting of approximately 1.214 acres, a parcel of land being a portion of existing rights-of-way and a portion of Tract 4, Block 35, Post Falls irrigated tracts, according to the plat recorded in Book C of plats at page 78. Records of Kootenai County located in the northwest quarter, northeast quarter of Section 35, Township 51 North, Range 5 West, Boise Meridian, Kootenai County, Idaho, providing for amendment of the official zoning map and providing for an effective date hereof.
I move to approve ordinance Legion Park Annexation Ordinance ANNX 23-7 and to direct the clerk to assign the appropriate number and that it may be published in summary only.
Second.
Motion seconds. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Westland,
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Stigleader,
Aye.
Walker,
Aye.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. And I was wrong because we'd removed item B. So the next item up is new business, and tonight we have none, followed by citizens issue. And this section of the agenda is reserved for citizens wishing to address the council regarding city-related issues that are not on the agenda. If anyone wishes to testify, come forward, give your name for the record. Seeing none. Administrative staff reports. I'm having a hard time talking tonight. We have one, Utilities Consumer Confidence Report. Great.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I'm Craig Bornpole, Utilities Manager for the city, and I'm coming to speak to you tonight on our Drinking Water Consumer Confidence Report. So a Consumer Confidence Report is a required report community water systems are required to send to their customers by July 1st. So we include our Consumer Confidence Report in the bills that go out in June to make sure we hit that deadline. And the CCR, the purpose of the Consumer Confidence Report is really just to provide information regarding local water quality to the customers who are consuming that water. A key component of this is it has to be delivered to their customers, so Post Falls customers. As many of you know, so ours would be specific to Post Falls, but if you live in Post Falls, you could be in one of several water districts. There's Post Falls, East Green Acres, Ross Point, a bunch of other smaller water districts. So if you don't know who provides your water, there is a website. It's called Find My Water Provider. And you can go there, type in an address, and confirm who supplies your water. So when you go to the website, it kind of starts off with an overview. This shows both Washington and North Idaho, all the way into Spokane, and you can see all the different water districts that are in there. There is an address bar. You can type in an address such as 408 North Spokane Street, and it will hone in on the water district which is yours, and it provides a contact number. That's the utilities number, so you can get some information. So we're kind of the magenta area. The brown one that you can kind of see is Ross Point. The larger green one, appropriately, is East Green Acres. So you can confirm who is providing your water. So for the Post Falls Consumer Confidence Report, some highlights. It's the 2023 report because it covers the sampling that we did for the year 2023, the calendar year. Some constituents, we have waivers where we don't have to sample them every single year. So in the Consumer Confidence Report, it lists the year that most recent sample was done. It's a common question we get. Why didn't you sample for Alpha A radiologicals in 2023? Well, the requirement was 21, and that was the most recent one. So for the calendar year 2023, all samples were absent for total coliform. That's an indicator bacteria that we do not want in our water system. It might show, that's kind of the first hint that there might be a problem. It itself isn't an issue, but it may indicate that there's E. coli or other things in the water, so you would do further testing. So even at that very base level, all samples were absent for total coliform. And all of our samples, we did do some testing for PFAS, a common constituent in the news lately, as EPA is developing rules for PFAS. All of our samples were non-detect for PFAS, as well as other synthetic organic contaminants. So again, highlighting the highly reliable, high-quality water source that we have, that we take advantage of, the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer, where we pull all of our potable water from, continues to show that it's a resource that we rely on and is highly valuable to us. The Consumer Confidence Report that comes in the mail with your bill is highly text-heavy, and so want to make ourselves available to answer people's questions that they may have on the report. There's a lot of that required information that we need to include in there, so that's why it does get a little heavy, but wanted to give you some of the highlights of the report and make ourselves available, make sure everyone has contact information if they do have questions, either of what's included in the report or your drinking water in general, and that concludes the staff update.
Any questions, Craig? Thanks, Craig. It's nice. I know when we have people come to visit, they always like drinking the water, so it's nice because there's some place you can't say that. So thanks for your efforts in that regard. Mayor and council comments. 4th of July, fast approaching. And I would be willing to take wagers as to numbers of calls that the police department is going to receive. You know, I ask everybody, I know fireworks are part of the 4th of July celebration. I'm not a curmudgeon, contrary to what some might believe. But we've had fireworks now for the last 3 or 4 days. And on the 4th of July, they will start probably throughout the day and then start hitting it heavy at about 8 o'clock, and it'll go till after midnight. And it doesn't bother me. I don't care. It doesn't bother my wife. It doesn't bother my dog. But there are a lot of people it does bother. And so I just ask people to be cognizant of that. And for those who do call to complain legitimately, I would ask that you understand that our police department cannot go out and arrest everybody that's shooting off illegal fireworks. You know, they'll respond to calls, as many as they can, but they're not going to get to everybody. I was thinking about that on the way over, and it reminded me a couple years ago I was on the board of the Association of Idaho Cities, a little town down in southern Idaho, southeast Idaho, called Roberts. Very small town, and we were talking about this at the AIC board about whether or not there should be a state law prohibiting fireworks. And he was on the board, still is, and he says, well, I just couldn't support that. He says, because although they're illegal in town, I am the person in town who runs over to the nearest reservation and picks up all the illegal fireworks to bring them back. So I thought, well, that's one way of doing it. I'm not your guide, but anyway, I just ask everybody to be responsible. You know, especially we have, thankfully, had some wetter weather, so fires hopefully won't be as big an issue, but just be cognizant when you're shooting off your fireworks for 6 hours or whatever it may be. How about council comments?
Yeah, I've got something. I would like to talk about allowing for neighborhood compatible kind of limited commercial uses in residential zones. And in particular, I'm thinking of properties with frontage along kind of arterials or major collectors like Idaho and Spokane. And there's a couple that are a little bit in the state of disrepair. And I think part of that's because they're not as valuable with all the traffic on the road in front. You can't have kids out there in the yard. And the comprehensive plan talks about having provisions for kind of graduating to commercial uses along arterials and collector streets, or we have traffic exceeding 4,000 trips per day. So we have that in policy in the plan already, recognizing that need to transition in some of these places from residential to commercial as the streets grow. And we can do that as a kind of a formal rezoning, but I'd like to consider adding commercial use as a special use permit in an R1 zone for properties like that, so that they don't have to go through the whole rezoning process, but instead can say, hey, we're already on this street, let's take the building that's already there, we're not going to redevelop everything and change the character of the neighborhood, we're just going to take the building that's there, renovate it, like make the garage or the living room into a business area, live in the back, and have that be a primary commercial use. I know in city code we have a home occupation code, which allows for commercial use if it's kind of ancillary to the primary residential use. And this I see as being kind of the other way around, where it would be a primarily commercial use, but we try to encourage repurposing the building and not changing the character of the area too much, but still allowing small business entrepreneurs to get in there and kind of make changes with that. So if you guys are okay with having staff look into this, I'd like to have them kind of present some options to us and other considerations for kind of a special use scenario like that.
Phil?
Yeah, so this question came in to us. I asked Randy to bring it up during council because I didn't want to put comments back in sort of outside of the public meeting that could be a possible violation. But basically the answer is it's certainly something we could do if council directs that. We would need to amend the zoning code to sort of allow that neighborhood compatible commercial use purpose statement into the zones that we wanted to do, like R1, R2, R3, that we could then specify what kind of businesses are allowed, and then we would have to just sort of go through that ordinance drafting process with you, and then the comprehensive plan, as Councilor Westland stated, could support those already. And so we could possibly fit this into our current criteria for SUPs because they already look at sort of neighborhood compatibility. But the review criteria for SUPs points back to the purpose statement for those codes, which is why we would need to amend those purpose statements. So again, it's certainly something we can look into, but we wanted to get council, whether or not you wanted to. It would certainly take staff time and moving that forward. But
If council opts to do it, I would ask that you specifically focus on appropriate neighborhoods. 2 years ago, the city hadn't raised any issues. Neighbors had turned in a neighbor for running a business out of their neighborhood. And again, it wasn't a big issue for the city, but it violated code because the neighbors felt that it wasn't appropriate.
Right.
And so I think I'm not going to tell you guys your decision, but it's got to be an appropriate neighborhood, I believe, an appropriate location.
yeah, and we would have to carefully draft those ordinances and go over them.
Any other comments?
I'd be supportive of that. Yeah, I think it's worth looking into with the specification that we stay on major collectors or arterials, which I think will limit the locations and the neighborhoods that it's put into.
Question about that process with, if it is approved in the ordinance and goes to a special use permit, is that granting authority then with the planning and zoning, or would that specific case come to us for approval of the permit?
So special use permits do go to the Planning and Zoning Commission for a decision. That decision can then be appealed to City Council.
Right, okay.
But
Josh?
I'd be willing to look at it, just like Field said, as long as we specify what businesses can go in there and monitor that the best we can.
Kenny?
Yeah, I agree. I don't have anything else to add.
Okay, do some work.
yep, we'll
Thank you.
go to work.
Any other comments? We do need an executive session tonight to last no longer than
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
I move to enter into executive session pursuant Idaho Code 742061C to acquire an interest in real property not owned by a public agency and have, and further, that no action will be taken during the session and that the session will last approximately 10 minutes.
Second.
Motion second, further discussion. Roll call, please.
Walker.
Aye.
Ziegler.
Aye.
Westland.
Aye.
Shove.
Aye.
Stigleader.
Aye.
Motion passes. We'll enter executive. Call the meeting back to order. Are there any motions to come forward?
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Sorry, I jumped again. Motion to adjourn with the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Yes, sir.